Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr.S.Vahitha from S.T.Hindu College, Nagercoil. It's indeed my pleasure to be here amidst this virtual community in spite of a pandemic crisis in a real physical world. Well, let me thank the Almighty for providing me with such an opportunity, and my immense gratitude goes to Dr. Prabha for trusting a beginner like me. Also, I thank Solis Group for organizing this event. Okay. Every day, new forms of human knowledge are being digitized and converted into data. Knowing how to organize, visualize and analyze textual, spatial and qualitative data have become essential skills for those who seek to understand and to contribute to the body of human knowledge and expression. The advent of personal computers and email in the era of the internet ushered in a new relationship of humanities and technology. The digital humanities, also known as humanities computing, is a field of study, research, teaching and invention concerned with the intersection of computing the humanities. Digital humanities is born of the encounter between traditional humanities and computational methods. All the ways that humanities and digital technologies intersect comprise of the digital humanities. Now let me speak something about technological utopianism. A techno-utopia is an ideal society in which laws, government and social conditions are solely operating for the benefit and well-being of all its citizens, set in the near or far future, as advanced science and technology will allow these ideal living standards to exist. A tech utopia does not disregard any problems that technology may cause, but strongly believes that technology allows mankind to make social, economic, political and cultural advancements. Overall, technological utopianism views technology's impacts as extremely positive. Now let me tell you something about techno-socialism. So, techno-socialism is a particular type of socialism that emphasizes and embraces futurism as well as advances in science, technology, engineering and medicine that must be our future and our destiny. Theorists like Arturo Escobar have effectively introduced the notion of bridging the gap between the so-called virtual and the real to look at cyberspaces as constitutive of the real. And in this context, we'll have to see something about cyberculture. Cyberculture is it's actually a body of work that seeks to deal with, account for and explain the ways in which everyday practices and realities are changing due to emerging or emerged forms of computer and digital networks is clubbed together as cyberculture. Or in other words, cyberculture is the culture that has emerged from the use of computer networks for communication, entertainment and business. It is also the study of various social phenomena associated with the internet and other new forms of network communication such as online communities, online multiplayer gaming, social gaming, texting and social media. Douglas Rushkoff in Siberia and Mark Derry in Escape Velocity, Cyberculture at the end of the century, Both representatives of this understanding of cyberculture identified it as a subculture of the digital age that helped imagine an initiation of a futuristic regeneration of society. At this juncture, it's very much important to know something about cyborgs. Actually, the fusing of two spheres, distinct spheres like of the physical and the virtual, the digital and the sensory, is best understood in the process of creating a cyborg, and the process is called as cyborgification. Donna Haraway, a theorist, hinted at an organic mechanical coupling drawing from visions of androids or bionic humans to look at the boundaries between the real and the non-real, the biological and the mechanical. So Haraway's cyborg, however, rests in the optical illusion between the social reality and science fiction. Haraway also hints at how we are all in a process of becoming cyborgs, as she calls it a cyborgification, as our lives become increasingly intimate with machines and technologies in this particular contemporary age of cyberspace. Or in other words, she hints at the mechanization of humans, which is also very well evidenced in Salman Rushdie's Fury. And the cultural anxieties regarding the online world takes over the real organic world, tells Haraway. And now it's high time for us to know something about the virtual world. So a virtual world is nothing but a computer simulated environment which may be populated by many users who can create a personal avatar and simultaneously and independently explore the virtual world, participate in its various activities, and communicate with others either with a real or a fake identity. And hyperreality is a next term that we'll have to learn. Hyperreality is the inability or incapability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality, especially in technologically advanced society. It is nothing but the fake identities that people create in social media in order to hide their original nature and identity. And certain people, they are incapable of identifying these fake identities, and this is what we call as hyperreality. And Jean Baudrillard, a critic of postmodernism, he actually relates hyperreality as a condition in which reality has been replaced by simulacra and simulation. And here we'll have to see what simulation means, right? So simulation is the active process of replacement of the real, and or in other words, forging an identity, right? And next comes simulacrum. Simulacrum, it is actually a representational image or presence that deceives, the product of simulation usurping the reality, or in other words, a copy without an original. For that, we could take the classic example of a false icon for God, and the other example, modern example, will be Disneyland, right? So next comes simulation. Simulation, it is actually the active process of replacement of the real. This happens always and so many times in social media networks, be it in Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. People are more fascinated to make fake identities, and that's what we call as simulation. It's actually the process of the replacement of the real. So for example, if a person keeps the Facebook picture, display picture of a heroine or hero, it means that he's hiding his real identity. That's what we call as simulation. And next comes Edward Soja's Thirdspace. So Thirdspace is actually a concept introduced by the American geographer Edward Soja. Thirdspace, as explained by Soja, is a unique space in the metropolis today. It refers to the fictional spaces imaginatively produced for the purpose of recluse. So such a third space sometimes compresses past in the present and the imagined in the real, and they can be even imaginative spaces or spaces represented by the mind. And dwelling in the cyberspace, it's high time to learn something about the term cyberfauna. Actually, this term, cyberfauna, it's a term used by a theorist called William Harvey, and as he says, it is an interesting category of men and women in the age of cyber communications today. The term fauna, actually it had been particularly chosen by the French symbolist poet Baudelaire to refer to the casual wanderer in the city, an activity that had been acknowledged as typical to city life. In the same way, with the rapid advent of proliferation of cyber communication channels, this kind of casual wandering in virtual space in search for virtual friendship has gradually emerged as a popular preoccupation among urban dwellers, with a paradoxical promise of both companionship as well as assured anonymity. And here in this context too, we can relate Facebook and Instagram accounts or any other social media account in which wanderers, these cyber fauners, they wander very actively towards other sites with the aim of knowing much more details about even strangers. So they are called as cyber fauners. And the world of cyberspace has transcended geopolitical boundaries in order to bind fauners in a new bond that does not exist in reality but only in virtual space. So we come to know that there is no geopolitical boundary in the cyber space. And now let's come to know about certain current trends in cyberculture that can be related to our day-to-day life. Right? To begin with, we'll know something about cyber stalking. So, what do you mean by cyber stalking? So, cyber stalking, actually, according to researchers at Bedford University, cyber stalking was more common than physical harassment in 2013. Cyber stalking is a part of modern life that some people don't even realize that it exists. It can occur over Facebook, Twitter, email, and any other social media type websites. People post their activities carelessly and unaware that they may have a cyber stalker, which allows cyber stalker to track a person's personal life very easily. Cyberstalker use internet resources to stalk their target, resources such as email, dating site, public discussion forums, social media sites, and even cell phones to stalk their prey. Sophisticated cyberstalkers use combinations of these resources in order to carry out their plans. Cyberstalkers commonly have 4 objectives: locate, survey, emotionally harass, and criminally manipulate their prey. And in some cases, the cyber stalker will prey on their target's family, friends, and co-workers to attack their target. And now let's see about digital activism. And digital activism, it is also known as cyber activism or e-activism. And it actually describes how citizens can use digital tools to effect social and political change. These digital tools range from mobile phones and digital cameras to Web 2.0 social networking sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And there now exist many platforms for individual public expression. Anyone can create a call to action petition asking for help from individuals across the globe to help them in their fight for justice and social change. While these tools were originally used by many for networking and entertainment purposes, they soon become a conduit for political activity. What began as a digital playground morphed over time to achieve its potential, which allows everyone to have a voice and the opportunity to have a major impact either socially or politically. And here at this instinct, we can just think about the Me Too campaign, which was carried out throughout the globe, and certain other revolutionary activities, because people at some point of time, they really feel the need for a change, and they join hand in hand to bring about a change in their current society. And so social media, it actually acts as a very successful platform for such activities, and digital activities can be always appreciated. We are as a species headed for an existence where we live and rely on the rich digital world to provide us meaning and joy. And now comes the golden rule of netiquette, which is actually it's a kind of a rule to treat others online as you would want to be treated. There are several rules of netiquette that should be followed at all times online. Netiquette is an essential asset to have when communicating online via email, social media, web pages, etc. The basic rules of netiquette should be learned and followed to maintain your reputation as a reliable and credible communicator on the web. For example, nowadays you could see or witness lots of hate speech all over the social media. Hate speech over politics and other things. People actually, they argue with one another, use very much negative words, bringing out negativity in and around the social media. So I think personally this the golden rule of netiquette should be very carefully followed to bring about a very tolerant social platform, right? And then comes cyber dating or chatting culture. Cyber dating, it's a phenomenon that has taken the world by storm and only continues to grow. Nowadays, cyber dating is everywhere. Cyber chat culture is typically an urban phenomenon, a culture that relies solely on tertiary relations in a highly sophisticated urban environment. A culture that fosters anonymity and abject alienation in the midst of virtual company. So this is also a culture that encourages the hyperreal, the simulated act, and in this contemporary society we are always, now and then we are witnessing certain things, simulated acts now and then, right? Newspapers bring up all such simulated acts that are performed in such a public social platform. And here too I would try to reiterate fake identities all over the internet. And next comes the digital divide. So what do you mean by a digital divide? The digital divide is a term used to describe the discrepancy between people who have access to the resources to use new information and communication tools such as the internet, and the people who do not have resources and access to the technology. For example, students who don't have access to the digital world during this continuous quarantine lockdown is juxtaposed to the students who have proper access to the virtual world for educational purposes. So it's just the difference between the haves and the have-nots, even in the digital world. And next comes cyberpunks. So what do you mean by cyberpunks? So actually cyberpunks are science fictional stories that are based in the near future. Cyberpunk is a subgenre of science fiction in a dystopian futuristic setting that tends to focus on a combination of low life and high tech, featuring advanced technological and scientific achievements. William Ford Gibson, he's actually an American Canadian speculative fiction writer and essayist, widely credited with pioneering the science fiction subgenre known as cyberpunk. Beginning his writing career in the late 1970s, his early works were near future stories that explore the effects of technology, cybernetics and computer networks on humans, a combination of low life and high tech. And he helped to create an iconography for the information age before the ubiquity of the internet in the 1990s. Gibson notably coined the term cyberspace for widespread interconnected digital technology in his short story Burning Crow, and later he actually popularized the concept in his acclaimed debut novel Neuromancer. These early works of Gibson's have been credited with renovating science fiction literature in the 1980s. And next comes cyber racism. We can find racism everywhere, and when it comes to the cyberspace too, we have cyber racism. Cyber racism is best defined as racially offensive content on the web through videos, pictures, comments and websites such as social media, emails and text messages. Cyber racism is also a form of racism. Online activities or published material that result in offensive comments in relation to a person's race, color, national or ethnic origin have the same effect as similar offline activities. So next we'll have to know about cyber crimes. So cyber crimes are increasing day by day, and when a crime is committed through the use of computers, networks, devices and other various types of technology, this is known as a cyber crime. So cyber crime can range from fraud, cyber stalking and to infringements on copyright laws. Even more serious types of cybercrime could be the cause of terrorist activities and messing with stock market numbers. So, cyber crimes should always be thwarted from the very beginning, and we should be well aware of such fraudulence in and around the cyberspace. And next comes the pros and cons of the digital world. So, we'll have to speak about the children, right? For our children, the so-called digital natives, social media has existed for as long as they can even remember. Children who are taught early on how to use social media in a very healthy way, or children who can be more likely to use it responsibly in the future. That's well and good. And successful users of social media will self-educate themselves, and they'll be able to discern themselves between fact and bias, plain and fake news much easier than the previous generation, right? I mean the children, the 80s and 90s kids will be far behind when they are compared with 2K children. Yes, they will be much more faster. So they are more passionate about social issues and are more likely to engage in politics. They will know how to spot an internet scam much quicker and with greater ease than those of us who haven't been online as long. On the other hand, these digital natives are prone to be distracted via cyber sex and other crimes, and if left unnoticed, may become victims to the cyber criminals. So it is always better to beware of the other negative phase of the digital world, and entering a child's digital world should be the topmost priorities of modern parents. So to conclude, I'd rather recommend the virtual community to be much more humanizing in their lifestyle and much more beware of themselves becoming mechanized in their day-to-day activities. So please use this digital and social media in a productive way and have time to focus on your real world too. I mean, let's not become addicts to the virtual world. And this is Vahitha signing off with much more social responsibilities in balancing the virtual and the real world. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.